Alright, hello everyone, my name is Shep, welcome back to the Butcher's Circus. Today we are going to be watching two matches that I did against ClassyKassy. So this is a subscriber of mine and they were wanting to practice the Winter Bliss DOT team. So I gave them a very good practice session playing with the Zedis Stress comp. I will also play with a different team for the second match, but for the first one I am using a Stress team. So knowing exactly what team they picked, I brought something that would be kind of a fair matchup. Even though that DOT should have a very good time against Stress teams, this is one that is very, very aggressive. So it can kind of counter out that rock, paper, scissors because of the sheer stress output that it does have. So I do believe I got to go second, actually. I did get to go second, and my opponent went for the immediate battle now to give themselves some accuracy, and then for the other skills on my Crusaders. So my characters are already losing a lot of HP between all the DOT that's gonna come down on me, but between the command buff and the slam and what's about to come, I am gonna get a lot of crits here, and I'm gonna get a lot of stress output as well. So you can imagine this is going to be quite a fast match because both teams are being very aggressive. So I had a few choices, of course, with my men-at-arms. Usually I would go just Bulwark of Light into Bellow and just be defensive like that, maybe even guard the Abomination if I'm feeling extra defensive. But in a situation like this, where your opponent has Materia Pestis, two DOT trinkets on the Jester, a Flagellant with Rain of Sorrows and Hemlock, you just cannot be that defensive. You just have to be aggressive and go balls to the walls with the stress or with the damage if you want to win. So here they dropped the Harvest before I'm able to drop a Beast Smile, because once again they got to go first. So that was pretty fortunate of them to get to go first, but at the same time they also missed out on the extra 15 dodge, which is what let me get 2 crits with both my Hanseri and with my Zealous. So that has definitely been helping me out a lot here. And now with the command buff I hit those Beast Smiles quite reliably, and now I have a very decent repulse with a little bit of extra damage. So my opponent here fears the repulse and decides to go for Rejuvenating Vapors. While I was playing, I thought that this was kind of a weird move, because Rejuvenating Vapors is probably not gonna give you enough regen to kind of just stay alive here. So it was definitely an interesting play. I feel like just dropping another Festering Vapors make my characters go closer down to 0. Probably would have been better, but they just end up deciding on that. So here I also had another decision to do. So my opponent was actually, after the crits, my opponent was saying command buffs equals crits, because they watched me kind of religiously, I feel, and they already knew all the lines before I said them. So as things would happen in the match, they wrote down the line in the chat, and I was like, wow, that's exactly what I was thinking about. It was quite funny. So yeah, I was thinking whether I should go for a Bolster or a Bellow or just drop another command buff, but I thought, they don't have monkey spawn their characters. Honestly, I'd rather just have just one command buff but start dropping Bellow so they get debuffed a little bit, and so I start stacking those Bellow debuffs on the Antiquarian, so potentially she can fail the death blows later down the road. Because that's really what you want to do in a situation like this. You kind of need to identify the characters on your opponent's side that can get kills, and the characters are the Jester with that finale for sure, and also the Antiquarian with that finisher. But if you can make the Antiquarian go Afflicted, have Bellow debuffs, and if you have protection on your side, she won't be able to do any damage, so she won't be able to get death blows. So here I drop a big Zealous onto that Jester. You can see that the match definitely goes by a lot faster when I'm just playing and not commentating at the same time. I fail to notice it when I'm commentating, but such is the way of the Butcher's Circus, I guess. So now the Jester goes for a self-act out hit. I could have ended the match right there if that was a fail, and then goes for the crit finale, the J-Man finale, as Cassie said. I should note, I didn't see it at the time, but my Abomination was exposed, so the crit chance was actually very, very likely. Almost like a 50% chance, and with the Blood Red coin, there was just enough damage to take my Abomination out. Now, if my Abomination was still alive, I would just get a second transformation and this match would be over. But I still get a very nice Hanseri here. I get a crit and a death blow, which is very, very helpful, and I make the enemy Antiquarian go Fearful, which is a permanent minus 25% damage debuff. So at this point I was giggling, thinking to myself, yeah, there's no way my opponent wins this. The Antiquarian is now Fearful. This is going to be very, very difficult for them to win, because, you know, I still have 3 characters which are relatively healthy, and their Antiquarian is essentially useless for the rest of the match apart from just doing DOT, and their Shieldbreaker isn't in that good of a spot. I feel like 2 Zealouses and she'll probably just vanish. So yeah, we drop yet another Zealous now in this Antiquarian. We have used up all 3 of our command buffs, so we will probably have to stack more now. Or what you could do here with Man Arms is you could first drop a Bellow and then stack more command buffs by the start of next round, or you could have just dropped command twice if I really wanted to. In hindsight, considering my opponent has still quite a decent amount of dodge, like 40 on that Shieldbreaker and 25 on the Antiquarian, I probably should have dropped just 2 command buffs, but you know, I have 2 Bellow trinkets, I have Pitfighter's Helmet Eerie Eye. I really want to drop those Bellows to be completely honest with you. So yeah, here comes Fetching Vapors. You can see already it's doing 0 damage because of those Bellow debuffs. You see me instantly hovering over it, just like, oh yeah, she does 0 damage, amazing. She won't be able to do anything now. And I could just drop another one, but at this time you really have to drop at least 1 command buff so you can hit your enemy characters, because this team is really reliant on the accuracy buffs. If there's any sort of dodge on the opponent's side, you have very low accuracy numbers, 85 with the Harry and 90 with the Zealous. So that Antiquarian gets a crit, and even with a crit she did zero damage to the Man at Arms, so that's really freaking good for me. And now I drop a Zealous and I actually miss it, so if I had dropped another command buff I wouldn't have missed, and that Shieldbreaker would likely be dead now. Of course, she would be at a little less stress, but you know, she would have eaten the Zealous, she would drop to this door, take horror at the same time, and she would probably be dead at this point, but she isn't. She is not dead, and she's gonna go for the Act Out Serpent Slayer, which doesn't really save her because it's a stress team, right? Someone asked in the comments, how do I deal with Shieldbreaker? I feel like she's always alive, I feel like I can't deal with her. I end up just always losing to her, and she just feels like immortal. The way you deal with her is, if you're playing with a damage team, you have to ignore her most of the time, like 90% of the time you have to ignore her, because she has Serpent Sway, right? So with Serpent Sway, most of the damage teams just suck a massive PP and can't really do anything to just break through, because she's going to get a lot of dodge, she's going to get a lot of Aegis blocks, there's literally nothing you can do. But if you're playing a stress team or a DOT team, you just do your AoE abilities, and those Aegis blocks will go away, and you can also still kill her with a heart attack even if she has the Aegis blocks, so it doesn't really matter all that much. So here I just go for the Houndsari because, you know, I want to use my final action as the doggy in case he does go down. I did have another choice, which is just going Bark of Light there, or maybe even guarding the doggy to give myself protection, but at the same time I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna go ahead and waste the Man at Arms action here, especially considering they still have Puncture, and I'm also not gonna go ahead and put 2 characters of mine at this door for a protection buff against a UT team. I don't feel like that would be too smart, because you have to consider here that once my Crusader and my doggy die, I cannot win the match anymore because they still have a Flagellant. I have a stress Man at Arms, not a repulsed Man at Arms, which is what you could bring in this team. You could bring the repulsed Man at Arms and still do Bellows against the damage teams, but then you just miss out on some abilities, miss out on some of that protection, extra stress out from the Pitfighter's Helm, but you could do that. But since I don't have that, if I let my currently 2 frontline characters die, I literally cannot win the match because of that Flagellant's content of absolution, so I really have to worry for it. So here I drop a Zealous thinking, well, you know, let's do a Zealous, reduce that damage further, get a Zealous, do a Bellow, and then get a Zealous on the Shieldbreaker, take her out of the match, hopefully get some decent damage, maybe even go for a self-heal if I feel so inclined to, and just take it from there. So they go for the kill here, 50-50, doesn't get the death blow. You can see that even with all those damage debuffs, if you do not have protection, it is very difficult to actually do 0 damage. So yeah, here I'm thinking, oh, Zealous is a kill, but but do I really want to do that? Or do I want to save 2 characters here out from Death's Door? I end up deciding on, there's 2 things to take into account here. There's the fact that my opponent has Act Outs, so the longer I delay the match the better, because they'll have more Act Outs, but there's another thing to consider, which is the fact that I have command buffs and they're running out. So if I use my command buffs, command buff turns to heal, I'm not using them to be aggressive, and then I'll lose the command buffs, and then I definitely won't hit. So here I have a few choices. I end up deciding on the Bellow for some bizarre reason. I feel like at this point I probably could have just dropped the command buff, just given myself more accuracy, take the Shieldbreaker out, take the Antiquarian out with the Houndsari, but for some bizarre reason I went for that Bellow, which I might regret, I might also not. But we'll see how this goes. The match is going by very quickly, so that's another good thing I do while I commentate, is that I have more time to think of my moves. Well, technically I have the same time, but when I'm commentating, I take more time to do the moves, because I'm not just pumping them out as I usually do. You can see that usually I play a move, the torch hasn't even started ticking. It's probably gonna take this time. No, the torch didn't even take. I made a very important decision and the torch wasn't even taking. So definitely do not do what I'm doing. Wait and think for longer. So my opponent gets yet another pass. That's like 2 passes in 2 turns in a row, so that's very, very helpful. And with this Houndsari, that's pretty much 2 characters dead, which is really freaking good for me. Now, the Houndmaster is at less of a death resistance, so he could go down, but watch what happens here. Weaklings, wear your wounds with honor. Why did I let myself come to this? The shadows come for me at last. And that's 2 characters gone, 3 characters gone. The Flagellant killed 3 characters with 1 action. That was really quite great. Now, it was two of his own characters, you know, on his team, but still quite a good job for that Flagellant. Just 1 action, removing 3 from the game. That was quite cool. So here I have a few things I want to do. Keep in mind that if I let my Crusader die, it's all over. So I don't want to let my Crusader die, because I'd rather just use my Man-at-Arms death blow resistance to just try and win that way. Just make sure that the Man-at-Arms can tank for a while I keep dropping Zealouses, keep stressing out, and keep putting my opponent closer to that exsanguinate exhaustion, so to speak, because they will be able to drop the exsanguinates here, sadly. I'm thinking, do I want to go for heal or do I want to go for Zealous? I will end up deciding on a heal here, because if I heal, I will get myself out of that snore, which is most definitely quite helpful, and I will also save the Man-at-Arms for 1 more turn. So I'm just gonna end up doing it. But it is quite a rough situation we're in, because my opponent hasn't used a single exsanguinate, and they might be at 145 stress, but that's still probably not not enough, because 1 Zealous is gonna do like what, 15 stress? I have to do way more than just like 2 Zealouses here to get the kill. Flagellant really is that broken. Like, if this was any other DOT team that didn't have a Flagellant, you know, we would have won this ages ago, because we just have too much stress output. But with a Flagellant, you need characters like the Crusader to do stress, and even then, it's still kind of difficult. The way I would have been able to win this right now is if I had gotten the 2nd transformation off, because the Flagellant would have taken all the horror, and things would be great. However, yeah, this is what happens. This is what actually happens in the match. So I go abusive and I immediately go for the act-out hit on the Crusader. Now, I really wish I had gotten live commentary on this, because I was telling Kassy before I clicked my Man-at-Arms, don't. Abusive, don't. I was literally typing that down in the chat, and then I clicked the Man-at-Arms and bang! Goes for the first act-out hit on the Crusader, gets the stun, and that's 1 Zealous stolen from me. Not only 1 Zealous stolen from me, also my character put to death snore, so to add, what do you call it? Add injury to... I can't remember how you say that one. I cannot remember for the life of me at the moment. So yeah, the Crusader is now at death's door instead of being at, you know, a decent amount of HP, and I have also missed out on the Zealous to drop on that Flagellant. So was trying to save my Man-at-Arms the best play? No, just let the Man-at-Arms die, just do Zealous, I guess. Next time I'll do that, next time I'll learn. However, I still have a very decent win chance. That Flagellant is Rapturous, and I still have most of my Death Star resistance here. Of course, I'm about to go Afflicted as well, but for all we know, I could just go abusive and I'll have a great time. So my opponent here definitely has to drop an exsanguinate, even with the minus healing skills, because if they don't, I just do a Zealous and they die. So they definitely have to do it, but maybe the act-out punish saves me? No, not yet at the very least. And here comes an exsanguinate, the final 1v1 between the Crusader and the Flagellant. It would be very nice if I had stuns here. It would definitely be very nice, but for that I would need 2 stun trinkets to just get them sort of reliably, so I would have to play not a Generalist Crusader, but a Stunned Crusader in a stress team, which you really shouldn't do. You really have to just try and win through those Zealouses, but that's going to be all she wrote for my Crusader, and that's match number 1, going for ClassyKassy. But let's go ahead and go for match number 2. So once again, they are going to be practicing with the Winter Bliss DOT team, but this time I'm going to be playing with the Howlers from 135J-Man, my brother. I haven't played with this team in absolute ages, mostly because it feels a bit outdated. It feels like no one plays pure Mark teams anymore. Everyone that plays Mark teams plays them with stuns. or with Flagellant, or with even more stuns, or with Riposte, or with whatever they play, or even with guard break stuff of the likes. No one just plays a team that just goes, you know what, I want to mark, that's what I want to do. So here right off the bat I had a lot of options, really a lot of options. I could have gone for a mark on whatever character, I could have gone for a bull, could have gone for Caltrops, but at this point I also could have gone for uppercuts on the Flagellant. At this point I feel like Caltrops would have been the wrong play. I know, how rare, right? But since I only have one stun, and it's a very unreliable stun, it's not a stun you should be using, I felt like, you know what, going for Caltrops might not be the best play here. So now my idea was, I drop a Blackjack on the Jester, and with that Blackjack, which was a 78% chance, I would just remove his action, and then I would keep going for my offense and try to take that Antiquarian out. However, things don't go very well for me because I missed the 78, and now I go for the flare, and I missed the flare as well! So I missed the 78 and an 80 on my opponent's side, and I was already thinking, okay, well, this is gonna be 2 losses. I was thinking that right off the bat, but let's not be so hasty. We're still playing a Mark team, it's very explosive, we can still turn things around, even if the first turn, or like the first round, has gone absolutely horrible for us because we have failed miserably so far. However, one good thing to note about that ranging shot is even if it misses, it gives my characters 10 accuracy. 135 gem employees would call the shot on the musketeer instead of the ranging shot. I feel like you shouldn't. Bring the ranging shot, it gives you an accuracy buff as well as a decel. It's a very nice ability. And I get to just go for a sniper shot, very likely to hit that Chester, and now with the extra 10 accuracy, now I have a 95, and with that 95 I will stun the Jester and put him at that star. And now my opponent is immediately in a very rough spot because I got to go first. I pulled the Antiquarian, so she hasn't been able to drop regen. The Flagellant does not have Reclaim to try and save the Jester, so now the Jester is essentially dead unless the Antiquarian moves forward or something crazy like that. That's the one way they could save this Jester, but they end up not deciding to do that. That's something that they said after the match. Oh, I could have saved the Jester by moving forward with the Antiquarian. Personally, I wouldn't have done it because then you're also putting your Antiquarian in danger. I will still just go for come header in the shot, and I will still likely get the kill. You shouldn't see like, let's change it from a 100 to a 50 and then a 75, and I'll be safe that way, right? Probably not gonna happen. You're probably still gonna die. But yeah, that's the Jester gone, can't even dodge, there was no monkey spawn on him, and now I have a character advantage. But how much have I suffered for this character advantage? Well, I have eaten a Blight on my Bounty Hunter, which isn't too good, and I am eating 2 Rain of Sorrows on my Backline, both of which got the bleeds if I remember correctly. Well, 1 bleed failed on a Musketeer, that was the 1 bleed fail. Now I have a few more choices to do. I can go for another ranging shot to just de-stealth, which isn't very good because the mark's gonna go away, or I could just try and shoot the Shieldbreaker from now on, or I could try to go for healing, but at this point I really don't want to go for healing. You really want to do healing with these characters when they're already at this store and you already have a character advantage. That's when you want to start healing. What you really need to do against these DOT teams is you need to get a character advantage, and after you get a character advantage you can just use your heals because they won't have enough actions to take you out. They don't have stress, which is usually what stress teams do. They have that collateral damage with the DOT, which forces you to heal, but at the same time they're doing stress, which just kills you. So that's kind of the idea. So here I think, oh, you know what, I could shoot the Shieldbreaker, but she would regen and sway, so I would have literally nothing. Or I could shoot the Antiquarian and get another crit 29, and then she has to click herself and regen. But even after she clicks herself and regen, she's still in a very bad spot. Now, what my opponent had to do here was not go Festering Vapors. They had to save her somehow, either with take cover, which would have been not a very good play because I would have just ranging shot, or with a guard, for example, on the Shieldbreaker, give the Shieldbreaker dodge and give her protection or something of the likes, and then they could have saved the Antiquarian. But at this point what happens is the Antiquarian has basically no way of staying alive. Her only sort of defense at the moment is the fact that she has 95 death blow resistance. Will that matter? Will it not matter? Well, it definitely could. The finish him could not get the kill here. We might be seeing that happening. But that is round 3, and that's already potentially 2 kills against this DOT team, and then it's just a power couple left. You see me like hesitating for a little second there, just looking at that 80%. I was like, please don't, and I go for it, but thankfully I do get the kill, and now it's a very, very rough spot for my opponent to be in. So this is kind of just the problem with some of the DOT teams, is that if you lose your characters too quickly, then you're going to be down to just 2, and you know, it's a power couple. The power couple is very, very strong, and they can definitely win matches just the 2 of them, but not in a situation where you're still playing against 4 characters. 2 of them are healers, 1 of them can guard, 1 of them's very tanky, and they're not even that close to dying. Musketeer is dropping to Death's Door now, which he can just go for the self-heal, and the Arbus isn't even dropping down to 0, and after that I'll still have 2 healers. So things are looking mighty fine for me. Of course, you go for the heal first with the Musketeer, and then you go for the Bola, so you have a little bit extra damage and a little bit extra accuracy from going last. Let's not forget about that. So now the Shieldbreaker has a few decisions to make. The Flagellant can also go for Rain of Sorrows, he can go for Punish, he can go for a couple of things, but all my characters are essentially ticking down to 0 here, which is good. It's definitely good for my opponent. If they still had the Antiquarian, this is when they would win the match. This is when it's round 4, all the damage team's characters dropping down to 0, they have to start going for heals. But if they go for heals and they're not attacking you, you stay alive with your regions, and eventually their defense is going to crumble. You're going to go for the 50-50 death blow, the Festering Vapors, maybe even get a double death blow chance, and then you just start winning the match. But that didn't happen, and here I go for an absolutely brilliant play. Yes, I made a brilliant play. I am giving myself a medal of the brilliant play, because I go for a mark on the Flagellant. No, Shep, you dummy! The Flagellant is just going to go to position 1, because there's going to be an expose or another skis, right? Not quite, because here's what I can do. I actually brought uppercut on this bounty hunter. I have uppercut and caltrops, no mark for death, very rare, usually you shouldn't do that. And yeah, I can go for an uppercut here on the Flagellant, and not only do I put him in a position to get shot, I daze him at the same time, meaning he can't make use of the regen, he can't make use of the other stuff, and I go for the Arbal section first because she had plus damage versus marked, so even if I had not gotten a crit there, I could have dealt enough damage. And now I have a actually just a 50% chance of getting a death blow. But the question is, do I want to go for a 50 or do I want to go for a 95? Well, I probably want to make use of the days that I just got, so I'm gonna heal the bounty hunter here and I'm gonna go for the 95. Now, of course, after I go for that, I'll have 3 characters at Death's Door, so if the Antiquarian was still alive, I would probably lose the match on the spot. But the Antiquarian isn't alive. She is most definitely not alive, so my opponent now is thinking, oh, I wish I had Impaled. Yeah, well, you wish you had Impaled too, but no, you have a Shieldbreaker which doesn't have a finisher, doesn't have that Impale, and you probably, very probably have a dead Flagellant here. The funny 95% death blow fail could have happened, but thankfully for us it doesn't happen, and as of now it's a 4v1 against this poor little Shieldbreaker. Now, have I seen Shieldbreakers win 1v4s? Not against damage teams, not with no stress. It would be really good if the Shieldbreaker had Impale, and if the Impale had stress. Like, if you just give her Impale stress, she could actually be another stress character, because she would do stress with it, and it would be an AoE stress ability, so she could eventually prevent the enemy characters from just stalling with heals. But sadly that's not the case, she doesn't have that, and her Impale is honestly just a very sad move. Because what it feels like is it's just the Festering Vapors but worse. It's honestly what it feels like, because it doesn't do any stress, so it's just not gonna scale in the same sort of way. Well, yes, but it's on a Shieldbreaker, not an Antiquarian, right? You have Shieldbreaker, which is gonna have that Serpent Sway, she's gonna have the Guard Break, so that's overall very good for you, but at the same time, yeah, I'd most rather not use the Impale, just use the Adder's Case instead. 99% of the time, Adder's Case is going to be half a lot better. So here I had dropped a ranging shot, so my Blackjack is very likely to hit, or almost a guarantee to hit, and then the stun is a 90% chance. And here I can just go for a double pull or something of the like. So I end up going for a bit of a misplay here. I should have healed myself with the Musketeer first and then gone for the Bola, so, you know, even though I just mentioned it like 2 rounds ago, yeah, first you go for the heal and then you go for the Bola. Now I missed it. I didn't really see it. I was like, yeah, I'll just pull it twice, surely. But then I just clicked Musketeer and I'm like, I'm at the store, I probably shouldn't, right? Yeah, I probably shouldn't. So here, watch me go for yet another mark with this Houndmaster. There's really no debate on what you should bring on the Houndmaster. You always bring those 4 abilities. On the Bounty Hunter, it's a bit rough. You don't always know what to bring, because you kind of want Mark for Death. You sometimes want collect bounty, believe it or not. You want caltrops, I always want caltrops, but you also want uppercut. You definitely want come hither though. Come hither is a must, of course. So yeah, it's kind of difficult to know what abilities you can bring. The Arbals is always the same as well, and the Musketeer could use the Calder Shot, but I just love Ranging Shot. I feel like Ranging Shot is a very nice ability for this team because it gives you plus 10 accuracy. Like, it's a pseudo accuracy buff. It's not a big one, but it's definitely going to help out here. Extra 10 accuracy, you know, also the anti-strength thing. We're all quite familiar with it from now on, and yeah, you can see I have 128 accuracy on the Houndmaster here. If I drop another buff, I'll have even more than that, and you can see that my Arbals, even though she has that sword debuff, she still has 130 on that accuracy with the bull, and now the Shieldbreaker, even with 50 dodge, will not be able to just stay alive here because she's gonna keep getting stunned, she's gonna keep getting hit, and eventually she will die. A very sudden death by quite a powerful aimed shot, which is right there. So big GG's to ClassyKassy. Both matches were quite amazing. Hope y'all enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed the practice. Hope it was quite a learning experience, and hope y'all enjoyed the video. So I will see you again another time. Cheers.